So which of these is heavier? 1 kg of feathers or 1 kg of bricks? Thank you again for this opportunity to um, present to these lovely teachers. So hello everyone, how are you doing today? Um, you could tell me in the chat, you could unmute your mic and say something. Let's just make it a little lively. How are you doing everyone today? Oh, thank you, Miss Onome. Thank you so much. Okay, hope you're having a great weekend. Hope your Sunday's going well. Hope you got the chance to rest. A lot of us online teachers, because we have we don't get our work is not 9 to 5. Some of us like to, work Monday through Sunday. Hope you got some time to rest. Okay, so let's just quickly get into it. Let me share. I'm go ahead and share my screen. So today I'll be talking on understanding GCSE Science. Okay, and before I start, I'd like this session to be interactive, so I'm going to be asking lots of questions. Yes, so I'll be asking lots of questions. Please answer, if you have an answer to it. If you have a question too, if I'm going over something and you feel like, I have a question, you can, put up your hand and, so that we don't get to the end of the session and then you forget what you wanted to ask. Right? So if you get to a point where you have a question, just put up your hands and I'll pause and, answer whatever questions that you have. If you do not want to do that, you could also take note of the questions, right? So that means at any point, if you have a question, just send it to the comment section so that after the entire session, I could answer those questions. Okay, so I'm guessing I can move on now. So first things first, I'd like to start with a riddle. This is supposed to be science, so let's start with a riddle. So which of these is heavier? 1 kg of feathers or 1 kg of bricks? I heard someone say something, but I didn't get it.
Okay, I think I can get some. I can see some response here.
Okay.
The comment section. I'll just read it out. They weigh the same.
They weigh the same.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other answer? Is there any other answer? Does anyone have any other answer or?
Yeah, they weigh the same. Someone said they weigh the same. Another person.
Okay. So yes, they actually weigh the same. A lot of times because people feel that bricks are heavier than feathers, right? 1 kg of bricks will weigh more, but yeah, 1 kg is 1 kg. So next riddle. I have no mouth, yet I can speak. I have no brain, yet I can remember. I solve crimes and reveal ancient history. What am I? Let me give you a little hint. This is biology related, so just think. I have no mouth, yet I can speak. I have no brain, yet I can remember. I solve crimes and reveal ancient history. What am I? Okay, should I go ahead and say the answer? If you think I should say the answer, just send in your favorite emoji. If you think I should just go ahead and say the answer, just send in your favorite emoji. I'm not seeing any emojis, so okay. The answer is actually DNA. Yeah. DNA has no mouth, but yet it can speak. It can speak. It can say, oh, this is my child. This is not my child. It has no brain, yet it remembers. It solves crimes, right? If you watch a lot of crime movies, you know that once a person's DNA is on a murder weapon, it's like the person is going to jail. Well, that's like a slam dunk. And then it reviews ancient history. Most people are able to tell that, oh, I'm from Africa, oh, I'm from Nigeria, by just, doing some analysis on their DNA. So let's just jump right into it. Okay, so before you teach GCSE, you need to understand the system. You need to know what the system is about. And I think I saw a comment on the in the chat box that saying that this is saying GCSE Science. So um is it just for science? Well, yes, this is GCSE Science. I'm basically talking about GCSE Science today. However, you can learn a lot from this, right? Because what I'm giving you are practical steps that you can use for um, English, math, whatever GCSE subject you are taking, right? So, yes, we may be referring to a lot of science, but the practical steps are the same,
Mm.
right? So just pay attention and, you get a lot from it. So GCSE Science is governed by, of course, this is just some background history. And then students follow a specification from one exam board. Specification is like a curriculum, right? So there are different exam boards. There are different GCSE exam boards. There's AQA, there's OCR, there's Pearson Edexcel, there's EduQuest, there's WAJEC, right? So different schools have different boards or follow different boards, right? Sometimes it could be that one school has AQA for science and maybe Edexcel for English, right? Sometimes it could be AQA all through, right? So what this means is that if you are taking a student, if you're preparing a student for GCSE, you have to find out, the first thing you have to find out is what exam board are you writing, is your school writing under? Right, is the first thing. As a matter of fact, if you want to build confidence with your parents, right, that should be the first question you should ask to let them know that you know what you're doing, right? What exam board is your school writing on, right? Now, you must know that once you've gotten that exam board, once you've gotten the exam board, you have to go and search for the specifications, the curriculum. It's online. Like these people document a lot, right? It's not like Nigeria where we don't have the culture of documenting, right? The UK, US, Canada, all these other countries, they document a lot. So you can go online and search. Some schools even go the extra mile of putting up their curriculum, on their websites. So it depends. Not all schools do that, but some do, right? So I've said all of this to say that once you establish that this is the exam board the child is writing under, you can go out online and search for the specification, AQA specification for biology, AQA specification for English, and you're going to see everything come out. They are not gatekeeping, right? They are not gatekeeping at all. So, are you following? If you're following, just give me a thumbs up. Hope you've not lost me or I haven't lost you. Okay, so let's just move on. Now you need to understand the qualification, especially for science, right? There's something called combined science trilogy, and then there's triple science. Now, combined science trilogy is you're still going to write biology, or the student is still going to write biology, chemistry, and physics, right? However, the content of
Of
what they're supposed to
what they're
do.
supposed to do.
Okay, so I was saying there are two types of GCSE science. There's combined science trilogy, and then there's triple science. So let me talk about combined science trilogy. In combined science trilogy, the student is going to be writing biology, physics, chemistry, the normal, three science subjects. However, they are not going to go as in-depth as triple science, right? So usually people who take combined science trilogy, they're not really for their A levels, they're not really doing any major STEM program, right? That's one thing about combined science. And then, like I said, the content is not much. Those who do triple science go more in depth. They have more topics, they have more yeah, they have more topics to cover than combined science. And those who do triple science are those who are doing major STEM subjects, right? Maybe they want to do care, they want to go into caregiving, they want to go into computer science, um, they want to study medicine or engineering, right? They have to do triple science. Now, I'm telling you this because you can serve as some sort of advice, you can provide some sort of advisory role to the kids that you're teaching, right? I feel like your first class with your child, the child you're taking on GCSE, should involve you trying to get to know the child, trying to get to know their goals, right? So that you know what to do and what to advise. Because most times, the truth is, these kids go to school, and most times, especially those who go to public schools, they are not being taught properly, right? You'd ask somebody in year 10 who is supposed to know what GCS is all about and what subjects to take, and they don't even know. So it's important that you know these things so that you can play some sort of advisory role, right? If they say, oh, I want to do medicine, or I want to study nursing, but I want to do combined science trilogy, then you know that they shouldn't be doing that, right? Because it would limit their chances of getting into getting into the course that they want to study. Because usually STEM subjects, you have to do triple science. You have to. Now, for grading for combined science grades usually comes in two formats. So let me just quickly show you what a combined science grade looks like. One moment, please. So for combined science, it's what's to GCSE. So when the result comes out, it's going to be something like maybe 9, 9. 9 is like the highest. It's the highest grade. So these three subjects, biology, chemistry, physics, they are marked and then they are given 2 scores, right? While for triple science, you're going to have separate scores. You're going to have biology, maybe a 9, chemistry, a 9, and then physics, another 9, right? So I think that's the difference between combined science trilogy and triple science. So just to be certain that you're following, can someone just tell me what's one difference between combined science trilogy and triple science? If you want to unmute your mic, I think that will be faster so that we don't have to wait for you to type. You could just unmute and tell me.
Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Yeah, I think from what you said combined science has less content, so the students are not actually going in depth into the courses, while triple science is more in depth and it goes deep into the courses about this subject.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. So another thing you need to know is once you have established that this student is taking combined science or they're taking triple science, once you go online, it should be part of the keywords of your search. So you want to search for combined science, AQA combined science trilogy specifications, or AQA triple science trilogy, triple science specification. Also, if you're getting past questions as well, you're going to see it like on the cover of the past question. You see combined science trilogy, you see triple science, right? So just so that you do not, use the materials for triple science to prepare someone for combined science, or use the materials for combined science to prepare someone for triple science. So these are the things that you need to, take note of. Okay, so how are students assessed? this basically talks about the types of questions that you can see in a science exam. So first, there are three assessment objectives. Actually, there are three of them. There's assessment objective 1, assessment objective 2, assessment objective 3. Now, assessment objective 1 assesses the knowledge, right? So basically, in questions under assessment objective 1, you'll see things like define photosynthesis, state the factors that affect photosynthesis, right? So in assessment objective 1, they are trying to help them, they are trying to get and ensure that the students are able to recall facts about a concept, right? So what that means is that the reason why I'm giving you these assessment objectives is to help you with planning your lesson, right? You should know that your lesson should cover all these 3 assessment objectives if it's going to be effective. Because most times, if you do not know that this is how they are being assessed, you spend more time on assessment objective 1, because that's what we're used to in this country, right? We don't do a lot of applied learning. We only do recall, right? So you focus on 1, and at the end of the day, your student goes to write GCSE and sees questions on assessment objective 2 and assessment objective 3, and then they're surprised, right? So, like I said, assessment objective 1, they want to ensure that the students can recall basic facts of a particular concept. Then assessment objective 2 is basically, you know the facts, can you apply it in different scenarios? Do you get? You know the facts, can you apply it in different scenarios? Oh, you know what photosynthesis is, how can you apply it on a farm? How can you apply it in a greenhouse? So assessment objective 3 is like data analysis, right? This is where you take data. They usually provide students with either a graph or raw data on a table and ask them to analyze it or interpret it, right? So you would have to teach a lot of graphs. You would have to teach, how to evaluate. It's basically statistics, right? Statistics. In science, there's statistics because you're going to do lots of experiments. I guess they're trying to prepare them for project work and all of that. So this is where that actually comes in, assessment objective 3. Now, like I said, a balanced lesson must have all these 3 assessment objectives met. You don't just teach them what photosynthesis is and teach them the factors that affect photosynthesis and leave it at that. No, you have to help them to learn how to apply that in new scenarios, because they're going to see questions like that. Most GCSE questions are practical. They want to see how you can practice it in real life, because actually science, one of the reasons why I love science is because the world is built on science, right? So yeah, let's just move on. Just to be sure, like I said, I'm going to be doing this a lot, right? To make sure that I'm not losing you or you're not losing me. So who can tell me what assessment objective 3 emphasizes? Can anybody tell me?
Good evening, ma.
Good evening.
It emphasizes on interpretation, evaluation, and analysis of data.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Yes, that's correct. So let's move on. So what do top GCSE teachers do differently? Number 1, they teach from the specification. I cannot emphasize this enough. The first thing you have to do if you have a student that is taking GCSE is look for the specification. It's online. They are not gatekeeping it. You can search it out. Look for the specification. Teach from the specification. Another thing is use examiner reports. So what do I mean by examiner reports? Say you are, teaching a subject or a topic, right? Or you're revising past questions. These past questions usually have mark schemes. And the mark schemes have a column for examiner reports, right? So it usually tells that examiner report usually talks about what is expected of the student, how the student is supposed to answer, right? Oh, if the student only defined, then they get 1 mark. If they defined and provided a scenario where they can apply, then they get the full mark. So always use the examiner reports. You would find it on the mark scheme, right? It's there. Then always plan your lesson around the assessment objectives. Like I said, that's why I gave you the assessment objectives beforehand, like in the previous slide. Plan your lesson around the assessment objective. Now, the next thing is you model answers, right? Let's say you've asked a question and or during your guided practice, right? Guided practice is where you put up a question and then you and the students or students that you're teaching try to answer the question together. So during that time, you model the answers for them, right? You model the answers for them. You try to show them this is how you should answer. These are the key words that you should use. This is how you should, phrase this. This is how you should phrase that, right? And how do you know how to model the answer? It's still from the examiner reports that you'll find on the mark scheme. So you have to just be familiar with it. Then use retrieval practice. Retrieval practice is like basically helping the children to practice how to remember. Helping the children practice or students practice how to remember. Let me tell you, I'm sure a lot of you have, experienced this before in class. You finish teaching, you poured out your heart. Oh my God. And then the next class, what did we learn today in our previous class? You just have blank stares. They're just looking at you. What did we learn? Sometimes if you're in a group class, some people, I don't know if it has happened to you, some people just log out because they don't want to be put on the spot. Then they now come back like 5 minutes later because they have forgotten. And the truth is they've forgotten because they don't know how to recall. They don't know how to retrieve. And that reason why they forget is because most times they don't read. So in addition to teaching, just don't just go into class. Let me just teach. Let me teach. After if I finish teaching, my bit is done. No, encourage them to read. Help them recall. Help them have to help them learn how to retrieve. Right? How do they learn how to retrieve? There's one thing I like to do at the end of each class. Right? It's called knowledge dump. So at the end of each class, I ask them, okay, write 5 facts about what you've learned. Right? And then when they write those 5 facts, sometimes they don't get up to 5. That's fine. I just have to point out to them that, okay, if they make mistakes during the retrieval, I point out to them that, if they make mistakes during the retrieval, I point out to them that, okay, you've made mistakes here. That means you have gaps here. That means this is what you should go back and work on. Right? So just, help them practice reading as well. Then explicitly teach exam techniques, right? There are simple exam techniques we were taught when we were much younger in school. Things like, you should know how to eliminate certain answers so that you can arrive at the right one. You should know that you should know how to manage your time. You should know how to answer a question that you've never encountered before. All these things are exam techniques, so you should be able to teach them as well. All right, so I just decided to put this up as some sort of lesson format so that when you're planning your lesson, you could use these steps, right? There are different steps, but this is something you could use. So first, you can start with your retrieval starter, right? Retrieval starter is trying to basically ask questions that help them recall what you taught in the previous class, right? So let's say you taught diffusion in the previous class, right? And you're about to teach osmosis here in this present class. Your retrieval starter could be, what is diffusion? Or it could just be, write 3 things you remember about diffusion, right? Or it could be something more explicit. You could actually craft some questions, but always make sure that they remember the previous concept and try to link it to what you're teaching in the present day. That's if there is a link, because sometimes there is no link, sometimes there are links. So after your retrieval starter, you go into direct instruction, that's direct teaching. Then you go into guided practice. That's where you and the child, you model, you ask the question, model and answer. You ask them, they model the answer. You give immediate feedback. Then after that, you give them some work on assessment objective 1. Recall here, this recall here is tending to assessment objective 1, right? Then you give them questions on application, assessment objective 2. Then you give them questions on application, on analysis, assessment objective 3. Now, usually what I do is, if I am teaching on diffusion, for example, I go online. Like I told you, these guys document a lot, right? They document a lot. So you can go online and search GCSE past questions on diffusion. You see a lot of questions will come up, right? Both the ones for recall, both the ones for application analysis. Sometimes they come up in the past questions, so you might have some work to do, like maybe screenshotting different ones and then putting it all together in a PDF format using I Love PDF. Yeah, but it's still the work. It would help your students. These are the things that would make you stand out, right? Doing that extra work is what will make you stand out. Okay, so let us see. I know some people might be thinking, how do I create a lesson that emphasizes on these 3 assessment objectives? So I just tried to do something little to just show you. So everyone is familiar with photosynthesis, because from I think GS2, GS3, we learned about photosynthesis, and depending on when you went GS2, GS3, integrated science or basic science. Now, for assessment objective 1, you should be teaching your children the photosynthesis equation, right? What are the reactants? What are the products? What is the chloroplast? Where is the chloroplast located? Right? What are the limiting factors of the photosynthesis reaction? Then for assessment objective 2, we're going to be looking at creating different scenarios and asking them to answer questions based on those scenarios. For example, this is a sample assessment objective 2 question. A greenhouse watering system breaks down for 3 days. The greenhouse still receives plenty of sunlight. So these are the questions. Predict what would happen to photosynthesis. Okay, so just for the sake of those who might not be science inclined, in photosynthesis, we have carbon dioxide reacting with water to produce glucose and oxygen. This is the basic photosynthesis equation. This is what you're supposed to recall for assessment objective 1, right? So what does that mean? That means you need carbon dioxide, you need water, and then in the presence of sunlight. Sunlight is very important, right? I don't want to go into the whole thing in depth, right? I'm just doing this so that you can understand how these questions should be answered. Now, imagine that a greenhouse the watering system breaks down. So that means the greenhouse is not receiving water, which is one of the requirements for photosynthesis to happen. What do you think will happen to photosynthesis? Can someone tell me?
Photosynthesis won't be completed because there's water is necessary in order to get the product.
Exactly. So what predicts what will happen to photosynthesis? Photosynthesis will decrease, right? It won't be completed. Now, explain why. So she already, remember this question says predict what will happen to photosynthesis. So your answer should just be photosynthesis will be decreased, right? Explain why. She already explained why. photosynthesis will be decreased because water is one of the major factors for photosynthesis to take place. And in the absence of water, photosynthesis will be decreased. And then what factor has become limiting? Water. Now, for assessment objective 3, I didn't bother putting anything for assessment objective 3 because I think that it's quite intuitive. Graphs, you see graphs. Maybe you see graphs that show you the trend of photosynthesis during different seasons, the trend of sunlight during different seasons, right? Of course, let me try to put something up here. Let's say you have different seasons, you have winter, you have summer, or they may not even give you winter, summer, and all of that. They will just give you a graph that shows the trend of photosynthesis, right? You see something like this, right? And then maybe sunlight and something. And then they'll ask you to predict, and then maybe they'll give you some months and ask you to predict which month is winter. Of course, you should be able to predict that winter is the period when there's lower sunlight, right? So it should be somewhere around here. So these questions are basically common sense questions, right? But you need to also teach them. You need to teach your students how to decipher, the questions. So let's move on. Now, why do students lose marks? They ignore command words. You're asked to define, you go and do something else, right? They ignore command words. So you have to, whenever you're teaching past questions, you have to show them that, identify the command word and do exactly what the command word says. You're asked to discuss and you only write one sentence. It won't work. Because discussion means that you have to put in a lot of, you have to put in a lot of facts, right? You have to write a proper paragraph. Now, another reason why students lose marks is that they don't add their units, especially for chemistry and physics. Although I have noticed that these guys really want them to pass, right? So sometimes they put the units for them. Right, they put the units for them, calculate force, and then the answer is they just put dash and then put Newton. So all the students have to do is, write the, what's it called? Write the value. I've also noticed another thing. For physics, they usually have at the beginning of the, exam sheet or the answer sheet, they usually have a list of all the, what's it called now? Not all boards do that.
All the formula sheet.
All the formula that they'll be using, right? And I'm like, these guys are really, really having it easy. Then we had to, remember tons and tons of formula, right, to write the exam. But the sad thing is that it's still not helping, because you'll be preparing a student for exams. The formula sheet is there, and they don't even know which formula to use. But oh well, let's just move on. We'll do our work, and we point them to the right direction. That's just it. Now, when students are defining, always emphasize that they need to use scientific vocabulary. You've seen it a lot. You ask somebody, describe this. They'll use slang. They'll use, the one I've heard a lot is stuff. You put it in the stuff. What is the stuff? The stuff is a conical flax. Call it a conical flax. Don't tell me stuff. Call it an evaporating dish. Don't tell me stuff. So always emphasize that they shouldn't use everyday language. They should maintain scientific vocabulary. When they are asked to explain reasoning, they should explain reasoning, especially, sometimes if they are asked explicitly to explain reasoning, sometimes they're asked to discuss. When they are asked to discuss, if there is a need to explain reason, they should always explain reason. Now, another reason why students lose marks is they cannot interpret graphs. So make sure that one of the things you're teaching is how to interpret graphs. And that reason why students fail is because they don't know how to evaluate practical methods. You also have to teach that as well. Okay, so moving on. What are some teaching strategies that could help? I've spoken on retrieval practice. Always get them to remember. Always try to get them to remember. Always. Then spacing, don't just jam pack concepts, right? You can chunk it, right? You can chunk the concepts into smaller bits. So you teach a small bit, you ask them some questions, you guys discuss it, then you move to the next one. Don't just put everything together and teach. Then interleaving. Interleaving is taking different concepts that, have a link and teaching them together. Why this is important is because if you focus on just one concept and you ask questions on only that one concept, odds are students will be able to answer, but they don't really understand it. But when you bring, let's say, diffusion and osmosis together, you're helping their brains now focus. You're helping their brains, you're helping their brains want to decipher what process belongs to which concept, right? So instead of just teaching them diffusion and, asking only questions on diffusion, teach osmosis, ask questions, mix the questions together. Now, if a student actually is able to answer questions and differentiate between diffusion and osmosis, then you know that they've really understood what diffusion is and what osmosis is. Then there's dual coding. Dual coding is an instructional design concept that says if you're teaching, do not just have, let's say you have a slide, do not just have only words on your slide, right? Or let your slide not just be black and white. Let there be pictures that represent the concept. So pictures and words. Then code calling. I know lots of students don't like this, especially in a group class. This is if you're teaching a group class. Code calling is when you ask a question and instead of waiting for that one person who is always answering your question, you call a random person. Now, what does this do? Right? Although there are a lot of people who say code calling doesn't work, but I feel like code calling makes everybody, invest their attention into learning. Because if they know that you can call them at any time to answer any question, right, they'll be more serious. So in code calling, you ask a question, you just pick anybody at random to answer the question instead of waiting for one person to just, raise their hands. Then always use worked examples, work out examples for them, live modeling, model answers, use frequent exam questions, always give immediate feedback. Oh, this is what you did wrong, this is what you did right. By feedback, I'm not saying only give them feedback when they've done the right thing, even when they've done the wrong thing, even when they've done the right thing, give feedback. It reinforces that right thing that they've done. Then always encourage them to use scientific vocabulary. All right, so what are some resources that you should know? I've said it, official specification. These things are online. Past papers, mark scheme, examiner reports, practical handbook, knowledge organizers. AQA has this knowledge organizer. You can actually, get it online. Then equation sheets or formula sheets. Then I was hoping we could do a workshop. I don't know how that's going to work. I was hoping we could do a workshop, right? So I have two topics here. I have diffusion and I have let's instead of cell biology, because cell biology is quite elaborate, let's look at animal cell. So under diffusion, can anyone tell me one assessment objective question that we can get under diffusion? Assessment objective 1, rather.
Define the term diffusion.
Okay, define diffusion. Define. Thank you very much. What about assessment objective 2?
Okay, significance of diffusion in plants and in animals.
Significance of diffusion in plants and animal. Okay.
Okay. Can I have one?
Yes, you can.
Okay, we can say that a man spread a perfume
Mm-hmm.
and then it's spread from one point, from something like that. Explain
Mm-hmm.
the concept of what happened. If that's so, I think that's assessment number 2, like explanation.
Okay. That's okay. That's okay. All right. So just leaning in on that particular question, you'd say it's like just like you said, um perfume was sprayed on one end, and then it's moved to the other end of the room, right? Explain why students at the other end of the room can smell the perfume. As just as simple as that. Okay. Um, and that question, and that assessment too, objective question in diffusion could be: a runner is exercising vigorously. Explain why the diffusion of oxygen from the alveoli into the blood increases during exercise. Who can take a shot?
Come again, please. Come again, ma.
A runner is exercising vigorously. Explain why diffusion of oxygen from the alveoli into the blood increases during exercise.
I think diffusion, the rate of diffusion increases with temperature. As the temperature of the body increases due to the exercise and the run.
Okay. So
can I just
yes, please go ahead.
so during the exercise, the muscles use more oxygen for respiration, basically.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So and this causes the oxygen concentration in blood reaching the lung, to decrease.
Good.
And why the oxygen? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Why the oxygen concentration in the is it alveolar? Alveoli, remains relatively high.
Okay.
So as a result, the concentration,
gradients,
gradients,
a concentration gradient is established. Good.
Yes, exactly. Between the alveoli and the blood becomes steeper, so oxygen diffuses into the blood more rapidly.
Okay. So you see that he has used his knowledge of diffusion to explain that. That's a typical assessment objective 2 question. Now for assessment objective 3, you're basically going to see a graph. You're going to see a table that has different numbers. Okay, so can someone come up with an assessment objective 2 question for animal cell? You can go on, Mr. Timothy.
You can also ask some questions like, which part of the plant cell is used for photosynthesis? Which part of those plant cells is the powerhouse of the cell? So like the mitochondria now, even without saying that, okay, mitochondria is powerhouse, you can just ask which part of the cell is the powerhouse of the cell. So questions like that.
But that question you asked,
too.
that last question you asked, please hold on. That last question you asked is actually an assessment objective 1 question.
Okay.
Right? Which part of the cell is the powerhouse? You're trying to recall, right? Is a fact. Assessment objective 1 questions are facts, right? They're already known facts. Okay. So please, Miss Munirat, right? That's your name. I hope I'm not murdering it. If I did, please forgive me. Mr. Ovai was going to speak, so let's hear Mr. Ovai, then you can contribute. So Mr. Ovai, over to you. So Miss Munirat, please go ahead.
Okay, let's say you can say that. Excuse me, please. I'm like. You can say that why does a sprinter muscle contain many mitochondria?
Mitochondria. Okay.
Is it mitochondria?
Okay.
Okay, mitochondria. I'm a physics person. Explain why
Okay.
muscle need many mitochondria. I think that should be like explaining.
Okay. So that is a typical assessment objective to question, because when you're teaching, you're not even going to be, and you're not going to be telling them, oh, muscles contain more mitochondria, right? So who can tell me, from your knowledge of cell biology, who can tell me why does the muscle contain a lot of mitochondria?
Power. Mitochondria
Exactly.
is where the power or the respiration. Yeah.
Yes, that's where energy in the mitochondria, more energy is produced. So, Mr. Ova, we were hoping that you would contribute, but I guess you are you there?
My network.
Oh, okay, okay. So, are you able to talk to us now?
Yes. Can you hear
All
me
right,
now?
so yes, of course we can.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear
Okay,
you, Mr.
so
Ovai.
we can also ask. All right, so we can actually ask the student what part of the human organ is likely to the part of the cell labeled A or B, as the case may be.
Sorry, could you say that again?
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you. Could you say that again?
Okay, we can ask. Yes. What parts of the human organ are likened to the parts labeled A or B, as the case may be?
Okay. That's a great assessment objective 2 question. So he's saying, let's say this is both recall and assessment objective 2. So let's say this, of course, everyone knows this is a mitochondria, right? Because of the squiggly line inside. So that question would require you to identify that this is the mitochondria, and then identify an organ of the body that performs the same function that mitochondria does. It could also be done for the nucleus. You'll be expected to label that, oh, this is the nucleus, and an organ that behaves like the nucleus is, let's say, the brain. So thank you very much for all of that. Then for assessment objective 3, like I said, you're going to get a table. You might get a table showing the diameter of different animal cells, and then you're asked to find the anomalous one. Usually animal cells have a size range, right? So that means you have to know that size range to be able to say, oh, this is bigger than an animal cell, or this is way smaller than an animal cell. So yeah. Okay, so we're wrapping up. Pardon me, please. We're wrapping up. So these are the key takeaways. You must know the specification. I'm just, reiterating on some of the things I've said before. You must know the specifications. You must understand the assessment objective. You must teach scientific vocabulary and encourage your kids to use scientific vocabulary. You must use your examiner reports. I've told you where you can find the examiner reports. You have to teach science, well, practically. As a matter of fact, the reason why a lot of kids do not like science, especially chemistry, is because you're telling them about things that they can't see. Hydrogen reacts with oxygen to form water. How? They can't see it. They can't see hydrogen. They can't see oxygen. So if there's a way you can make these things become real to them, YouTube videos has helped with that. There are certain sites that help you practicalize certain concepts in in science. I've forgotten that site. Maybe later I would search and let you know. BBC also BBC Bite Size also has some practicals, right? Some games, science games that you can play. You can help your children develop scientific thinking, help them make hypotheses, help them predict, right? And when you're trying to help them develop scientific thinking, one thing is that you have to take away the guilt, that guilt of failing. Let them know that they can, it's fine for them to fail at the first attempt, even at the second attempt, even at the third attempt, right? So when they are comfortable with expressing their ideas, whether they are right or wrong, you see that you begin to have more improvements. So teach them how to think scientifically. Basically, in science, there's hypothesis, and the truth is, you can base your entire project on a hypothesis, and it's not true at the end of the day. Does anybody kill you? No. So you have to take the same approach with the kids. Let them always ask them why. Why do you think this is like this? This is how you're developing scientific thinking. Don't just spoon feed them. Why do you think this is like this? Oh, how can you? Just always ask why. Then, when you're teaching, you have to model excellent answers, right? Like I said, from the examiner reports will help you model your answers properly. Because the truth is, this might be a new field relatively to a lot of people, right? A lot of us. So don't think that you don't need to go searching for how to answer the questions. Please do, so that you can help your children, get the best. Then always, once from year 10, I forgot to say that GCSE preparation starts from year 10. Although I like to start because sometimes I teach kids in like year 7, year 8, year 9. I like to start there because you don't wait till when it's year 10. By then they've already built bad, behaviors that it will take a long time to correct. So if once you have a child from year 7, year 8, start modeling GCSE answers. Some topics go from it's like it's science, so it builds on one another, right? So there are topics that you see in year 7 or year 8 that repeats in year 9, year 10, year 11. When you see those topics, ask questions like you're preparing them for GCSE. And yeah, don't just teach science. Science is not just something you teach. You have to teach them how to think. You have to teach them how to communicate, and you have to teach them how to succeed as GCSE scientists. And at this juncture, c'est fini.
Wow. Thank you so much, Miss Laura. Please, if you know you learned something new today, I'd like to see your reaction. I would like to see your comments in the comment section.
Well, that was brilliant. I learned quite a lot. I mean that was insightful. I mean, being able to understand a whole lot of things, and which is a way forward. Is a way to think out of the box, basically, and to be able to give the student the best. So amazing. Thank you so much, Mrs. Laura. God bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was deep. This was impactful. Thank you. Thank you, Miss Debbie. Thank you. They're saying thank you in the comment section. Thank you. Very insightful and straightforward. Thank you, Miss Laura.
Thank you too.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much. This was a lot. In 1 hour 30 minutes or 2 hours, we've gotten a lot already. Thank you.
Sorry, please, can we get the slide? The presentation slide, is it possible?
Yes, I was about getting to it. So, Miss Laura, are we going to get the slide?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. So the slide is going to be made available in our community group page. So if you're new here, you probably joined because a friend sent you the link. Be rest assured that you'll be getting the slide in the community page. So I'm going to be putting in my contact here. You reach out to me and I'll add you to the group. The slides are going to be available. This recording will be available there as well. So should I share this quick story, Miss Laura?
I don't know what quick story you're going to share, so I don't know if I'm going to say yes or no.
No, this is the story we can all relate to. I mean, it's a story we can all relate to. Yeah, because when it comes to teaching online, not every parent trusts that any Nigerian can teach their child online. So the very first point you want to, or the very first thing you want to do is to build trust. And when you learn some of these details about the GCSE exams, 11 plus, SAT, and all of that, you share it with the parents. The parents begin to trust that their child is in safe hands, right? So you're not just learning this for learning's sake. You're learning this to convince parents that you know exactly what you're doing and that their child is in safe hands. You're also learning this to save you the stress. Online tutors, your time is your currency. That time you want to use to research on your own and drown in tons of information, you are getting it here live and direct from people who have paid the price. I'm sure Miss Dora, when she first started online teaching, she did a lot of back and forth, and you don't want to go through that. So this is just the best platform where you can learn from the mistakes and the expertise of some of these teachers. I've heard parents say that, oh, my son said none of the questions you practiced with him came out. And you wonder why. Do you know why today? I'm sure you know why today. You probably used the wrong paper type for the student. And Miss Laura here taught us how to go about understanding what kind of exam paper to use, exam type, exam board. You need to know, is it combined sciences? Is it single sciences, separated sciences? And these are some of the things that will help you know where to start from. Because whether you like it or not, you are the driver. You can't be driving a passenger, which is your learner, in the wrong direction. The outcome will be a disaster. As a matter of fact, the parents will say, thank you very much, God bless you, and they are going away. They wouldn't want to recommend you to anyone or come back to you again. And you don't want that. So it's very important that you take this training seriously. At the end of the day, the good thing is when you apply some of these techniques, these strategies, your students come out well. The time you've spent in preparing them is not wasted, and trust is built. But please, let's not forget, the same way you take time to build this trust through your conversation, through educating parents as you tell them what you intend to do, the same way you can break those trusts. If you don't understand how to teach this subject, so you have to gain mastery of this subject. You have to know the resources to use, and which was what she did today. So please, I will encourage us that when the recording drops, do well to go over it so that you can have questions. You can ask very good questions, because there are some questions that you obviously know the answer, but because you probably skipped some parts in the video, you might not know. So the video is going to be made available for all of us. I don't know if I'm missing out anything. I think that's all for now.
Miss Debbie, there's a question.
Okay.
Yes, so a couple of people identified the platform that I said that you could use to help visualize some scientific processes to the kids. It's PHET, P-H-E-T, right?
Oh,
PHET.
yeah.
And yeah, someone said aside PHET, are there other virtual lab platforms? Unfortunately, it's only PHET that I know. There's this other one that I saw online, but I've tried looking into it and it's underwhelming. So, but yeah, maybe I'll still look into it and then maybe I'll share with the rest of us. But PHET for now is the only one that I know. And then, like I said, BBC Bite Size, although you need a subscription to that, or you need to be in the region where that's in the UK, basically. So, but it has games, it has simulations for science. So
yeah. Very important, please. It's very important. I think there was a teacher who asked, should we be using gamification tools? They are grown already, so they might not be keen on it. But it's true that even for us as adults, we love games. There's no one here that doesn't like to, that wouldn't want to have fun. So if you want to ignite curiosity in your learner, you have to use some of these innovative tools to make your class engaging and more interesting. And much more than that, your personality needs to reflect in your class. A lot of us, we just want to come and pour knowledge. And sometimes it's overwhelming. But you can use some of these tools to make your class, to make your learning environment more comfortable and convenient for your learner. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Miss Laura.
You're welcome, Miss Debbie.